Today we will be talking about networking. In my years working as a career counselor, people's eyes seem to either roll or gloss over when I bring up networking. Why? Because it's uncomfortable, especially for people without a sales compatible personality. And it takes a lot of time and strategy and energy. It certainly feels more immediately productive and definitely with less personal discomfort to simply just do a job search online. But really, give it a try. Yes, it takes getting outside your comfort zone, but so does PA school, and you are thriving and nearly done with that. It really is the most efficient and effective way to find a job. Reflect on the positions you've held in your life. How many of those positions came at least in part because of a connection or the help of a referral of a friend? For most people, it is more than they realized. And that's networking. It can be as simple as a friend saying, "Hey, I saw this job and thought of you," or "Our office is hiring, I think you should apply," or even, "I want you to apply for this position." In fact, I got this job through a similar, simple conversation with Tyler when he came to present at my class at BYU. He mentioned they were looking for a director of clinical education, and I said, "Hey, I'll do it," and the rest is history. In a poll of the PA faculty, 61% of positions came as a result of networking. In my experience, I have observed this trend to be true for any population of people, that most people have benefited from relationships and connections as it relates to employment. So let's talk about why networking actually works. Think of a time when you were at a job and your organization had a new opening. Have you ever been engaged in a similar conversation to, "Hey everyone, Doug's leaving us next month. Do you know anyone who would be good to fill his position? Start talking to your friends." Career counselors always say that 80% of all jobs never make it to a formal job posting. Why? Because hiring managers usually know who they want to hire, or they use their own network to find someone. Most of the jobs that end up on sites like Indeed.com only end up there after the company can't find someone, or because of the company policy that requires publicly announcing the position for equity's sake. In fact, at one of my jobs, when a colleague resigned, everyone got together and said, "Oh no, she just put in her notice. Who do we know will do a good job? And we need to do this fast." I made a suggestion for a friend, and that person was interviewed and hired within the week. The job was posted on the company website, but the job was practically filled as soon as it got posted, which was really only posted out of formality. We never even considered another applicant. In networking, you are attempting to tap into that hidden job market, the jobs that are coming up soon or open but haven't been announced publicly yet. Maybe they know someone is retiring soon but haven't had time to start the job search. Maybe they don't know they have a need until you ask about it and it prompts an idea. One colleague told me about networking with a group that asked him, "How did you even know we were hiring?" Well, he didn't, but by asking about opportunities, he was the first and maybe even the only candidate they considered. Tapping into the hidden job market can dramatically decrease competition and increase your probability of success. And the great thing about networking is that it can have long-term outcomes too. Even if there isn't an opportunity available right now, often a company will put you at the top of the list and contact you later when something does come open. When I was a career counselor, I worked with a student whose dream job was writing for the magazine Motor Trend. We worked together to reach the editor and inquired about internship opportunities. After taking his spring break to travel to California to meet them in person, they regretted they didn't have an internship spot available to him because it just wasn't in the budget. We were both disappointed, thinking, well, at least we tried, until a year later when they asked him to work for them upon graduation. But this time not as an intern. They hired him to be an actual full-time writer. It is likely that as your network grows and develops, you will have opportunities fall in your lap later. That's part of the beauty of networking. Have you ever had to select candidates for a job, team, award, etc.? Have you ever had to do so based only on the documents they submitted? How does one really distinguish between a bunch of strangers who look pretty similar on paper? Oh, look, this person just graduated from PA school. So did this person and that person. At some point, it becomes hard to think of the names on those papers representing real people. It reminds me of genealogy or family history. My family tree has so many names, and they are just that, anonymous, faceless names. But over the years, I have found a few stories of some of my ancestors, and it is a good reminder that each name belongs to an individual who had a life and feelings and talents and a family and aspirations. And suddenly, those names aren't so anonymous anymore. And no, this is not my family. So, networking works because it adds an element of trust to the hiring process. It humanizes people. Instead of trying to choose a complete stranger out of a stack of papers, the hiring committee gets to see you as an actual, real person. And the old adage of a friend of Jennifer's is a friend of mine holds really true in networking. If someone you know and trust can vouch for you, it helps build confidence. Have you ever been part of a selection committee and chosen someone you thought would be amazing, only to later realize that person didn't live up to your expectations? It happens all the time. And that mistake can cost a company a lot of money. I got an email recently from Rocky Mountain University saying, if anyone refers someone for this job and they actually get hired, Rocky Mountain will pay you this much money in cash. I think it was $100. What does this say about how much Rocky Mountain values networking? Somehow, even just briefly meeting someone provides us with at least the illusion of trust with a stranger. If nothing else, you can tell if they were personable and easy to get along with. So, story. When my husband was a police officer in North Carolina, we wanted to move back to Utah. He applied for law enforcement jobs in Utah and Salt Lake counties. Draper City was a place he applied and was not selected for. After we moved back to Utah, we took a trip, and while at the airport, we sat next to a man who happened to be the police chief for the Draper Police Department. To pass the time, we started talking, and after our brief conversation, the police chief gave my husband his card and said to reach out if he ever needed a job. Remember, this was a department my husband had already applied to and been rejected from, but now the police chief himself was implying that he would be happy to hire my husband in the future. That's a great example of networking. Who you know really does matter, or at least it makes a difference. We have all seen people gain great advantages because they knew someone. They had the hookups, right? Jaron Schmidt says, networking lets other people intervene on your behalf to help you find success. I like that. I've had so many clients say to me, well, I know it's all about who you know, but darn it, I just don't know anyone. And they shrug. Or they'll say, oh, I'm the first in my family in medicine. I don't know anyone. But here's the argument against that. You never know who the people you know. And what about the people those people know? Let's pretend you had to make a contact with a celebrity. Could you feasibly do it? Without even thinking hard, I can think of how I went to high school with Marie Osmondson. My brother-in-law knows one of the Imagine Dragons, and so does one of my sister's friends, who also knows that host guy from The Bachelor. My lacrosse teammate went to girls' camp with Eliza Dushku, and my brother-in-law spent an evening hanging out with Lance Bass. If I had a compelling reason, I am confident I could make connections with at least one of these people, and through them, likely a whole group of others I had no idea were connected to the people I'm connected with. Even if you truly were an island and had zero contacts, it is never too late to start meeting new people and making new connections. But all of you know people, and again, those people know people. Instead of the attitude of, oh, I don't know anyone, how about, I wonder who actually could help me? Or I'm going to find a way to get to know fill in the blank. You're never a victim of not knowing the right people. There's always a choice to get to work and develop new relationships. So, how does one actually start the process? There are two main networking strategies. One we call using cold contacts and the other warm contacts. And I suggest using both approaches. Starting with warm contacts is perhaps the most comfortable because you are beginning the networking process by reaching out to people who already know you and hopefully like you. So write down a list of all the people you think you can reach out to. Do not make the mistake of thinking someone will not be able to help you for one reason or another. You never know who they're related to, who they run with, who they went to church with, who their next door neighbor is. Consider family, friends, neighbors, former colleagues and supervisors, professors, and more. You can get started on this with the assigned networking worksheet if you like. The other strategy is to consider what we call cold contacts, or rather people you don't already know. Write down places you would like to work. Maybe you prefer a specific location or region or a specialty. These are the people you will work to get to know. Often, one can even turn a cold contact into a warm one pretty easily. The networking worksheet is also intended to help with this. Let's say you would like a job in cardiology. You don't know anyone in cardiology, so this is a cold contact. But what you don't know is how many of the people you already know that have contacts in cardiology. By being specific with your warm contacts about what you need help with, you might be able to find a lead for this cold contact. Maybe you want to work for Kaiser Permanente, another cold contact. If you can't find any leads from your own network, you will start making cold calls, emails, etc. to people at or with connections to Kaiser. And this is where sites like LinkedIn, AAPA, UAPA, and other state associations, conferences, and even the good old-fashioned phone book or, the electronic version like Google can help you find leads you didn't originally have. Also consider reaching out to your undergraduate university, usually career services or alumni relations, to see if they have any resources to connect you with alumni at Kaiser. Oftentimes, having something in common with someone helps motivate people to want to help you. We'll talk more about how to use LinkedIn in a future screencast. After you know who you want to contact, which is where you will start, prepare yourself by developing a script. You don't have to read it word for word, but you do want to be concise and articulate about the help that you're looking for. The number one rule in networking is don't ever ask anyone if they know of any open jobs. The majority of people won't have any leads that specific, and it is a conversation killer. Instead, always ask for help. You want your script to be concise. You don't want to take up too much time. Number one, give a brief background, some context for who you are and why they would want to help you. For example, do you know them? Does their friend know you? Do you have something in common? Are you a graduate from the same university? Are you about to graduate from PA school? Number two, offer a brief summary of what you were looking for. You should be specific enough they can visualize how they can help you, but not so specific they won't know anyone. For example, I'm looking for an entry-level physician assistant job. I'm pretty open-minded, but I do have a special interest in cardiology and pulmonology. But saying something like, I'm looking for a super rare job in a specialty no one's even heard about, probably not be too productive. Number three, again, you're not asking for a job. Instead, ask for help. My favorite approach is, do you know anyone who can help me? Likely almost anyone will be able to offer you a contact that can, at the very least, get you a step closer to the contact you need. For example, someone might say, well, I don't know of any physicians, but my sister is a nurse. Number four, if they agree to help and offer you a referral, ask if it is appropriate to use their name when you reach out, or if they would be willing to make an introduction. Here you are hoping to capitalize on the whole, well, a friend of Bob's is a friend of mine theme. Then simply start contacting people. Try the telephone, in person, emails, informational interviews, conferences, asking people for introductions, etc. Take notes of who you talked to, when, who they referred you to, etc. Sometimes you may not find any leads that pan out immediately, but you can always follow up later, and then again, and then again. I often get pushbacks on this with the comment of, but I don't want to bother anyone, and why would they want to help me? I get it, I've felt the same reservations myself. But also think about yourself. Would you be bothered and angry if someone reached out to you in this way? For most people, the answer is definitely no. Most people genuinely enjoy helping other people, and some people are even flattered to do so. If you're concerned about this, I definitely recommend the book, The 20-Minute Networking Meeting. It's a straightforward book about how to use only 20 minutes of someone's time to expand your network. It will walk you through the process, and again, who isn't willing to spare 20 minutes? And yes, if you think networking is only about asking people for favors, then you are likely right. No one will want to help you. Hopefully, you aren't only asking for favors when you try your hand at networking. Networking is about relationships, a give and take. So, little notes to check in, thank you cards, holiday cards, sending a congratulations on social media, attaching an article in an email that reminds you of them. All of those can be simple and easy tools to maintain relationships, just like you would with any friend. Yes, networking can absolutely feel contrived and awkward. But think about how you have made some of your most dear friends. What did you do? How did you show them interest and reciprocate the relationship? And use that, because networking isn't just adding 3,000 people to your LinkedIn account, it's actual relationships with other people. Networking can also be about working with people you want to work with. For example, when there was an opening for the clinical coordinator job here at Rocky Mountain in our department, I immediately asked Mike to consider Jennifer Orchard. I called her immediately, told her apply on Friday afternoon, and she was hired by Tuesday morning. And now I get to work with someone I already knew I could trust to do an amazing job. And that's an example of giving back to our relationship. I once worked with a student interested in a particular field. I don't remember what it was. But after reading a book, I remember he reached out to the author to compliment him about his work. The student never thought he would get a response, but he did. And after a few conversations about the book, the author, who happens to be an MIT professor. And remember, MIT is one of, if not the most competitive university in the nation to get into. And he got accepted in this program to study directly with his professor. And it all started with a simple compliment. If you're still uncomfortable about networking, check out this book. It has specific details on how to actually network, including simple strategies that are easy to follow and easy to read. I think you'll find it relatable. And for those of you with a lot of free time on your hands, wink, this networking book is a fun read. It's a story of a young man who went on a quest to interview some of the world leaders in their industries. It shows the power of networking in a fun and interesting way, and it's interesting to see the results of his attempts. In terms of networking, find your style and what works for you. And remember that your everyday interactions with people are already part of the networking process. Personally, I get pretty uncomfortable meeting new professional contacts in person. I'm working on having more memorable interactions. But I found the most powerful networking tool I have used is to simply demonstrate my competency and dependability. Thus, I've gained the most valuable professional relationships through volunteering to help with projects or on committees. And that's networking too. I have found even simple strategies can help. In some of my inquiries with potential clinical leads, I have sometimes asked questions about how someone ended up in Alaska, or comments about knowing someone with the same name, and sending an occasional thank you card. When I finally got around to meeting one of these contacts in person, she gave me 3 hugs and told everyone I was her best friend, all because of a small thank you card and a few questions showing some interest in her personally. Your assignment is to complete and attach the networking worksheet found in the Google Classroom and to read the Nose Ring book, Chapter 2. Enjoy!